Good morning and welcome to the Aaron Russos podcast. Today's episode is about life on Earth. Now, while most people spend their whole life, this incarnation, if that's what you believe in, then here on this planet, they spend a vast majority of that time consumed by a system, feeding the system, being part of the system, and to look at the mechanics of that system, it's rooted in, I guess, economics, and that is the driving force behind everything. Okay, we go to an education system, we have further education, we have jobs to get, we have communities to be part of, and everything obviously comes back to that elusive dollar. And we are human beings having an experience on a planet, and well, in recent, global surveys, 85% or more of people know that they have a soul, that they are part of something that they don't understand. And I guess, even the greatest minds on Earth, they say that in the human part of the contributions to the Human Genome Project is that they only know what 3.5% of our DNA does, yet if we ask them a question like, can we change our DNA, they say no. Now, I wouldn't be taking advice from someone that only knows what 3.5% of something does. And yet, it's not our jobs as average human beings to then scrutinize what the professionals, that was in inverted commas, are doing, and we're told to stay in our own lane, and there's culture around it, and there's words, and there's all sorts of things that we're told. And in older times, there was something called a Renaissance man or Renaissance person, and they were people that were interested in more than one vocation or one interest or one hobby or basically everything. But as the economic system grew and different industries grew, everything became hyper isolated in silos and separated out so that we could make it part of the economic system. But we all know, at heart, I'm a physicist, a mathematician. We all know that more is better than less. So why would we be heading a whole, generations of human beings on Earth towards less, to become dependent and reliant on a system that hasn't got its best interest at heart? And I'll be honest, I didn't really give a shit about any of this myself, and probably wouldn't have unless I had to go on a special journey of discovery myself. And that happened back in 2018. Before that, I had no interest in working out what was going on or why people were doing things. I was just busy trying to stay in my lane and survive and have my sort of experience here on Earth. And I guess what happened was I got sick. And we all know that things that, get better or anything on the planet, and I'm talking very generally here because I don't want to get into specifics, but anything that generally gets better always has a breaking point where it's bad beforehand. And that goes for everything, and it's just not with my isolated case, it's with everything and everyone. And so that has been the mechanics of human, I guess, continual growth on the planet. And if we look back at even the Sanskrit ancient teachings of karma, there were challenges and speed humps put in our way to make us awaken to a grander truth and to learn through those experiences that we wouldn't have otherwise had if we were just on the planet doing our thing. We wouldn't have those challenges, those bad things wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have accumulated things, and then we wouldn't have that growth either. You don't get growth without change. It doesn't, it's an impossibility to get any growth with anything without change. Now, humans are completely and utterly fearful, traumatized by change. It's part biological, part mental, and there's a bit of soul stuff thrown in there as well. And that's a holistic human being, and that's something that no present body on the planet recognizes, whether it be governments, medicine, science. There is not one governing, higher, responsible organization or group on the planet, including religion, that works with all three planes of human existence, including religion. Religion talks about it a lot, but, doesn't know what's going on. And so we have people getting around on Earth that think they know a huge, great amount of, I guess what we're talking about at the end of the day is mastery. And for anyone that doesn't know, anyone or any time you hear the word master or mastery, it's mastering being a human being on this planet, part of the system that we're part of. Mastering meaning understanding everything, okay? And I'll give you one example of mastery that is not isolated or is not the be-all end-all, but it's just an example of what mastery can do. So for the last 4 years, I have spent time mastering and going deeper and understanding the mechanics of myself, what triggers me, what affects me, using my emotional guidance system, what feels good, what doesn't, fears, insecurities, wounds, and traumas. Okay, those uncomfortable things. So where we're completely traumatized by change, so we don't want to go there. I went there. We don't, fears. They say face your fears. So all the things that go bump in the night, anything that we are fearful from, either from projected to us by the world, by the media, by anyone wanting us to buy stuff and influence our purchases and things like that. I got down to the nitty gritty and I faced all my fears and transmuted them to a point where I now know the driving force will understand what was making me fearful. And it's quite complex, and there's thousands of things that I had to go through to get to that point. But what I'm saying is that's another part of developing and growing in mastery. I now know and understand what all the things that we fear, whether it be, I'll give you examples here, things that go bump in the night, ghosts, aliens, the world ending, doomsday stuff, ancient prophecies, everything. I've worked it all out. It's a form of mastery. Okay. Now, when I've worked them out and realized that there is nothing to fear, then I live another life. I live a life now free from fear, It slows mechanisms like aging, stress. It's a different type of existence. Everything that is happening, when I talk to people that have been conditioned by the world, or by their jobs, or by just life in general, or by the TV, they go, oh, don't talk to me about big words like multi-dimensional and all that. But all of these things we're experiencing on a daily basis in each and every one of our lives. Love is multidimensional, gravity is multidimensional, everything within life is multidimensional. There's lots of pieces and parts that go in lots of different directions that all make up why things go on. We all try to logically simplify it to make logical sense in our own brains. That's how many things work its way into our belief systems through our five senses. Sometimes off to the side, out the corner of our eye, and we see something, we like it, we might adopt that into our belief system. So multi-dimensional, basically, which is what we call quantum biology, quantum mechanics, meaning there's lots going on because we're holistic beings, body, mind, and soul. And even though the emphasis is on the body and the physical, and that's what medicine and science only acknowledges, the fact, one of the things I've found out through my mastery of this whole show that we're in, the most fascinating thing is body, mind, and soul. No one of them is more important or less important than the other. They're all interconnected. So what we're doing essentially is we've limited our own lives, our own expression of life, our own abilities of life, our own things that we have full ease of attaining, experiencing, and having has been lessened. We've actually limited ourselves. We are our own problem because we trusted everyone. We have trusted everyone, and we've never gone back. And if we have, we've only gone back and questioned a small number because of things that to try and get to a deeper understanding or truth of it. So we're very surface level on the planet, and I'm talking generally, but I can honestly say, hand on heart, I'm talking to everyone on the planet, and I'm talking to everyone on the planet from a perspective of I'm the only person on the planet that has made a plan and cured an incurable disease in the history of humankind. Okay, that's a fact. If you don't like everything that's been presented to you, you go, oh yeah, right, mate, blah, blah, blah. You can go to my website and the exact plan is there for anyone to do and try for free. No email, no gatekeeping, no cost, nothing. Freely given. It's not to be sold, this special stuff. So until someone proves me wrong, everything is there. So I get to lay claim to that, which is the greatest discovery of our time, was actually within us. It wasn't a treatment. It was actually just a system restore, getting the body to an optimum state. It's called homeostatic alignment. And once again, you might go, oh, stop throwing these big words at me, Aaron. I am probably the lowest of intelligence person on the planet. Didn't have an education system, not intelligent at all. So there is no, I just basically did a bit of mastery and unlocked. I just got super curious, to be honest. I didn't do anything. I got super curious to work out what's going on, what's the mechanics behind this. And then, and I guess everywhere you go in life, we accept limitations. Whether it be we're researching something and we get to the end of the line, we go, well, that's all we're going to ever know on this. But as holistic beings, we're only allowed to research what's available. But when you're a holistic being and when you understand the mechanics of who we are and what's the system we're part of and how it all works, it's like retaining a new baseline. It's like basically going, well, I'm playing in a different field now because I've got access to everything and limited by nothing. Whereas each one of you go down a certain path of inquiry, you stop in the box that you are taught in, that you're educated in, that, there is further wisdom in everything that we do. It's ever expanding, but we all limit ourselves. And look, it does take an extraordinary amount of courage, effort, intent, belief. You have to do something that none of you human beings on the planet have ever been able to do before, and that's apply yourself unconditionally to finding an answer that isn't, it's not a selfish thing, and you're all pretty much just living a selfish life. There's 8 billion people running around the planet not interested in the betterment of humanity. Even the top 100 most humanitarian organizations are driven by money and power and greed and control and corruption. There's no full, free humanitarian people that are just interested in coming together to better the outcomes for human beings and the experience of human beings on the planet. That's a fact. Once again, everything that I say and do is never an opinion. I hate opinions. I hate dishonesty, and I promote anything to be challenged, tested, because when you see what it is that I see, which is just a slight shift, you don't have to go to university to open your mind. Everything changes, and it changes for the better. And that's a fact. And if basically I'm saying, if you know what I know and you still choose to be limited and still choose to have this very poor existence as a human being, then that's your choice now, because someone has presented you with freedom. That's me. Whether it be to have control over your health, your finances, your careers, it's giving you back the power within your hands to have a fuller expression of life. And so if someone offers that to you freely, with open arms and no limitations and no money attached to it, like first time ever on the planet something has been attached with no control, money or anything attached to it, it's called unconditional love. Not the words that you throw around on a daily basis, but the real unconditional love. Then that is your choice now. Okay, so anyone coming across this information that then makes the choice to stay with whatever it is that they're doing, then that is a choice. You cannot turn around then and complain about your terrible life. You can't turn around and complain about high prices, cost of living, terrible things that people are doing on the planet, because you are part of it by not making the choice to break away from the negative darkness that is consuming you. And, you know, everybody, for my whole life anyway, throughout different times in my life and bits and pieces, have all been complaining about these things that I have now given them the key to unlock. And all of them, every problem, everything we've ever complained about, everything we've ever gone, that's not right, everything that has been terribly done to human beings, I have now given, through my work, the key to all of that, to releasing it. And it's not even, you don't even have to wait, because a lot of people go to me, well, you know what, I really get what you're saying here. But seriously, how long is this going to take? And I said, well, individually, we can get out now. I'm giving you the key today. I'm already out, right? Yes, you have to work with one foot in both worlds for a while until you know, oscillate to a new normal. But the freedom of mind, the health, the well-being, the beautiful expression of love, the feeling, the emotions that you've been desensitized to your whole life, they all are now freely back in my life. And I walk around with a bubble of light in a dark world, but I understand what all those negative things going on around me, that they're not part of my life. So it's mastery 101, basically. It's going, look, there's always going to be someone out there who knows more, who's faster, who's stronger, who's, you know, and those people have always done an extreme amount of work to get to that level, to get to that understanding. And so there's no, collectively we have to get there for the planet to grow up. And we've got a long way to go. We're in our infancy as far as a planet goes, and graduating as a planet. But each and every one of us, that's the beauty of the system that we're part of. It's so individual, but it's so connected as one as well. It's like a living organism with pieces and parts. And there is a system we're part of, and no one has a clue, you know, how it all works. And when someone presents, you know, the truth about that system, it's often or mainly rejected, because the truth lives outside of, I guess it lives outside of our own beliefs and habits and fears, and so it's further away from all of those things that are quite close to you. And so we tend to we've never, you know, as a race, in my whole entire life anyway, and generation, it's always been doom and gloom, you know, that because we're driven by the media and the news and the fear as well to get you to keep logging in. They don't advertise all the good news on TV. It's 99% the bad news and 1%. And it's always pieces of the puzzle, never the whole picture. So we've never woken up as a race of humans and gone, I'm going to expect benevolent change. I'm going to expect really beautiful things to happen. We've never had that. And that's because multidimensionally, once again, there's so many things going on. And we all know when money's involved, corruption's involved. We know people do terrible things, are greedy. Everyone goes, well, you know, we've sort of worked out. And I can look around and see that life's pretty much what's been dealt to me. And in my limited state, I'm going to fucking the only way I'm going to ever get anywhere or have anything that is outside of that boring normal life is to actually take it in a negative way. And it's quite common, why are most politicians, and we can do it legally these days, it's not ethically, but there's a lot of legal things that we can do. We can deceive, we can trick, and these are all at the core, they're all expressions of a human being. We can either raise people up with our worlds and say beautiful things and inspire them, or we can lie to them, deceive them, condemnation. We can do terrible things, we can say terrible things and tear them down. That's a choice, but we're limited. We don't come into the world getting told all this mastery that I've had to spend a whole life learning, which makes life the most beautiful, amazing thing that you could ever experience. We are where we are because as much as we're individual, while some individuals can lead out, the collective is where the majority of things move and change on the planet. And so this mastery is pretty cool, but I guess it's really now comes down to choice, and most people won't make the choice unless they go, hang on a minute, this life's pretty shit, this thing's bad's happened to me. Like how much personal growth comes from near-death experiences and terrible things that happen to us, that makes us awaken to something, that makes us have to step outside the normal confines of our habitual lives and do something about it. And I guess in the past as well, in the near past, like just gone, a lot of the things that were on the spiritual side weren't fully thought out or grounded. It wasn't grounded spirituality. It wasn't stuff that sticks and works every time. And we have a whole culture around making fun of growth, making fun of people that are healthier, making fun of people that want to do something outside of the pack. And so we haven't really been nice people. We haven't been, I guess, when I talk about unconditional love, okay, let's just explain that for once. Marriage is a condition. There's conditions put on it. It's not the highest expression of love. When you love someone unconditionally, you don't need a piece of paper to say that you love this person. You don't need to say, oh, do this or don't do that. I don't like when you do that. When you truly at the highest expression of love, it's a knowing, and you just do the right thing. Okay, here on this planet we have duality. When we're not on this planet and we're in spirit form, there's a knowing, there's a singularity. They just know what to do, the right thing. Here we have to think about it and go, oh, there's right and wrong, there's all this duality, what's the right thing to do? But when you're at the highest expression, it's a singularity, that soul's knowing, that part of you that is soul. You form, a knowing, and you just do the right thing. So unconditional love in itself is something that no one on this planet has ever expressed or is showing people or is experiencing. As much as you throw the word around and you say it and all this bullshit that you do, no one's experienced it. Like no one's experienced a state of homeostasis where you restore the body system to its optimal state, where it heals 85% of all disease that you're presently going to the hospital for. No one's felt that. You're too busy to get on that. So unconditional love, all of these things that I'm telling you are freely available to anyone because they're just part of life. We just haven't thought about them in the right way. what do you think the greatest, if we're here on a planet and there's 1,000 or so characteristics applied to the system, and I'm talking, real hardcore physics here, and there's duality, so on each side there's a good thing and a bad thing, or a negative and a positive, or a right and a wrong, and then so we get to make choices, and those choices determine where we go. It's a beautiful thing. It's called free will. So we have free will, free choice, regardless, and also to think what we want to think. No one can stop us from thinking what we want to think. So all of these things I'm giving to you are gifts about your own divinity, about your own lives, about your own abilities, about your own superpowers. You call them superpowers. I've seen them too many times to call them superpowers anymore. It's just a human being that's properly aligned to the system that they belong to. So unconditional love, you just do the right thing. You don't need to. And, these are things, I'm explaining many things to you that you throw words around. You think you know what they are, but no one is experiencing them on the planet. And when you do, a lot of other things happen as well, because those three planes, like I said to you, body, mind and soul, is interconnected. They each affect each other as well. So love can affect your chemistry. The chemistry is a physical aspect. Okay, the brain, if you look at a thermograph or something that sees that firing in the brain, sends a message to a chemical, and the chemical is what moves the muscle and moves everything within the body. Love, through the soul part, the consciousness part, the quantum part, can affect this. Walking in nature can affect your chemistry. That's why things feel good. You have an emotional guidance system, but we're unable to use words to communicate how these three things all work in unison together to do these things. We don't understand that there's levels in everything, and they go all the way up. Unconditional love is the greatest. And when you think about it like that, which once again, no one's thought about things like this, who would design a system that we belong to that there is a bias, and the bias is love? Why isn't it shit or destruction or war, or, you know what I mean? There could have been anything designed in this system, but someone has designed it with a bias of love sitting at the top of every single thing. There is love. Now, do you feel that love in your everyday existence when you're expressing yourself as a human being on this planet, waking up from the moment you wake up to the moment you die in a planet that has a bias of love? Do you feel that love? Because if you don't, there's a long way to go. And I know that's every single person that listens to this. No matter how spiritual you are, no matter how much you think you've mastered things, there is no one on this planet that has mastered things to a level of the things that I have done in either the healing part, the mastery part, the transmuting darkness into light, into the understanding part. There is no one on the planet, no one, that can challenge one of these things to the level I have got to. And that's why I am supremely confident and able to say that I know that none of you have experienced this, because I've taken a whole lifetime to do it. And even one of the smallest little bits and pieces, maybe forgiving people that I was never going to get an apology from, and forgiving just to transmute it so that it didn't become a problem for me. You know, we forgive other people for ourselves, not for them, right? So that I didn't have to have resentment and anger and negative things within my life. I went and did. Now, this is one very, very small part of the mastery that I'm telling you about. But the reason why I can say none of you have done it, or none of you have reached these heights, or none of you have a clue, is because I went out onto a deserted beach for 7 months, then 6 months, then 9 months at a time to do this, to work at this, to transmute and absolutely work through these practical applications and processes to do all of this stuff. And I know because none of you can even turn your phone off for a day. So how are you going to go out into nature and transmute even, and I'm telling you, this is not even 1% of the mastery that I have attained by dedicating my life to humanity. So why? So you look at it and you're going to go, well, even if I knew about that, that sounds like hard work. It is. And that's why it's a choice. I'm not pushing this on anyone. I'm not evangelizing. I'm saying, hey, I found some stuff. It makes life a fucking 1,000 times better. Here it is, freely given, if you want it. If not, stay in your lane. Have your shit experience. Come to the earth, fucking pay half your fucking life out in taxes and fees and shit you don't even need, and have this shit experience, have shit things happen to you, block your awakening, block your limitless abilities, and die and reincarnate. And maybe when you come around another time, you'll bring this, it'll be presented here, and you'll go, oh, you know what? If we're going to die and reincarnate and die and reincarnate and die and reincarnate 1,000,000 times onto this planet, and the purpose of the planet is to reach a graduate status together, then maybe next incarnation, maybe this one, I'm going to actually try and work out why we're here. Do you know what I mean? It would seem quite pointless if you were to have a life where you just come here and rape and pillage and try and get as much money and have as much shit experiences and negative and do things to people and be selfish, and it'd be absolute pointless to just keep doing that over and over again, and karma being put in your in front of you to awaken to this stuff. You have a whole entourage, you have a whole system, you have all this stuff, but no, I'm just going to keep coming here and ignore it all and just have this really limited shit experience. Well, what you think is good anyway. You know, if we're going to come here, who would want to know what system we're part of and how it all works? Nah, fuck that. I'm just going to come here and fucking be an asshole. But if that's your choice, that's your choice. I have no influence over anyone. I'm just someone who's having a good life because my numerology teacher, Mark Gruner, did say to me, greater the knowledge, greater the responsibility. And it wasn't to put weight on me. It was just to say, well, look, within the system we've got, no one really wants to fucking work at themselves. No one really wants to have a better life because there's a whole lot of reasons why. It's multidimensional as well. But you know what? It's my responsibility to put it out there and make it freely available should anyone want to come along and be part of it. If you wake up today and want to be part of it, it's there. If you wake up in 100 years and want to be part of it, it'll be there. If you wake up in 500 years and want to be part of it, it's there. If you wake up in 1,000 years, in 100 incarnations and want to be part of it, it'll be there. It will always be there as the same thing that I'm talking to you about today, because this will not change. It is our core truth. This is the system we are part of and how it all works. It will never change. It evolves and grows and does become, but it's very slow. And some of the bigger things, some of the things cycle in numerology in 1,000,000 years, some in 1,000 years, some in fucking 27 incarnations. Some of the changes that are happening only happen in shifts, in times of accelerated shift like we're in now, in between the age of Pisces and Aquarius. Some of the things, therefore, over the last 2,000 years haven't shifted at all. Some things are shifting in times of shift over millions of years. We just don't look at a bigger picture because we're so hyper-fixated on a couple of generations. Outside of that, you have no idea, do you? Outside of the last couple of, your grandparents, maybe great-grandparents, outside of that, you've got no clue into what you're part of. And it's all there. And as I said, it's always going to be there. It was there, 2,000 years ago. But it's the same energy in the cycles. And every time we go around, we rise to greater heights and greater forms of understanding and greater, they call it, consciousness. Consciousness is energy, which is our soul part. It has been proven by science that it is energy in a thing called the One Project. It's a very accredited scientist proved that to you. There's lots of emerging science and there's lots of stuff that, like the innate intelligence that doctors have termed, doctors have seen, doctors can measure, they just don't know how the fuck it works. And there's lots of that going on. And all those things that they don't know how it works, or the scientists with the Human Genome Project, or knowing, what a very limited part of us works, they're the people you trust, and they don't know 3% of what's going on. But they're the ones you don't even question, you believe, you don't even test anything, you just take their word for it because you were educated to believe that. Your parents were educated to believe that. Your great-grandparents were in a generation even simpler, even lower in consciousness, that were educated to believe that, to be part of an economic system so that even people could take advantage of you and you could be used for marketing purposes, because those people in lower consciousness have no idea of the system we're part of, have no intention of contributing to harmony, to the progress of the collective on the planet, which is not going to change. It has been the same for thousands, millions of years, and it will be the same for millions and thousands of years in the future. When you get on, you get on. There's a lot more to know. Anyway, I haven't done a podcast for a while, so I just wanted to get on and pump something out, and I'm glad I did. I had no idea when I turned the podcast on, record button on, that what I was going to say, but I'm pretty happy with that little bit of explanation into the very system that we're part of. This is the Aaron Roussos podcast. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to you listening once again.